Good afternoon, students, and welcome to our lesson on active exploration. You have prepared your planning stage for the active exploration, and now you're going to be moving in to the active exploration itself. So let's move to the document which explains what exactly you need to do. So here we are. By now, you have prepared your active exploration plans, and by this time, you should have done the following. You should have, first of all, identified the stakeholders. You needed to decide who should be involved in the solution process based on who is affected by, can contribute to who contribute to the problem, and who is an interested party to the problem. And there's several things which you should have actually taken into consideration while you were doing this. First of all, you should thought of the two basic things. Who are the people that suffer from the problem, and who are the people that benefit from the problem? One thing that is really important to realize also, who is going to pay for the solution? Think of who may pay for the solution or the problem financially. Some problems require a person or organization to back the venture economically. Without the money, nothing can go forward. Also, think of who causes the problem. If we know who causes the problem, then we're able to say, okay, they caused it. They also need to be part of the solution. Next, think of who the experts on the issue are: researchers, health experts, and farm resources. Next, think of who has the power to solve the problem. Not necessarily the people who are affected or cause the problem or actually have the power to solve it. Sometimes you need a law, sometimes you need a local rule to do it, ordinance. It'd be the municipality, the mayor's office, the departments in the government that are in charge. And what you should also have by this time is a list of stakeholders that you wish to interview. Who are the stakeholders you decided to interview? You should have a minimum of 4 stakeholders. If it is a situation where there are two sides, you need to have 2 stakeholders on both sides. Also, if it is an issue where you have many people involved, the government, religious, non-religious, people who are political entity, NGOs, non-government organizations, amutot that are involved, then you really also want to involve those people as well. You want to get a good bounce. If you're going to get a good bounced solution, you also have to have a good bounced reservoir of stakeholders. You should by now have a list of information items you wish to find out regarding the positions and interests of the stakeholders. You need to say, okay, these are the questions I want to ask. I want to know their positions, what they want, and I want to know their interests, why they want it. What are their needs? What are the wants? And what are the resources that are in conflict? And the perception of those who are in opposition to them regarding the issue you have chosen. Not only do you want to know what your stakeholders think as from their point of view, you also need to know what they think the other side thinks. What do they think of the other side? Sometimes people have a wrong perception of what the other side wants. And that is a good starting point to start chopping apart and chopping away at those things which people think which are actually wrong. Sometimes misperceptions cause us to believe certain things about the other side, things we say they'll never agree to that. That's impossible. They're impossible to work with. They will never agree to something, and all of a sudden they didn't even suggest something because they thought the other side wouldn't agree to it, and the other side doesn't have a problem with it. And this you'll find quite often in negotiations. You want to find you want so basically also you want a survey that you will disseminate, that you will spread to the various populations involved in and impacted by the conflict. And this will be the populations that are involved. Very, very important what I am about to tell you now. Always do your stakeholder interviews before you do your surveys. Quite often, as you are doing your stakeholder interviews, you will find out additional questions that come up that you can ask on your survey. Your final survey should be only finished once you have completed your stakeholder interviews. The last thing that you should have by now is a timetable that states what you're going to do and when are you going to do it by May the 1st, 2020. No, we have way past 2018. This includes conducting and summarizing meetings, conducting and analyzing your survey results. So basically, what you need to do is do a list, תכינו רשימה של כל הדברים שאתם צריכים לעשות. ואחר כך תכינו סדר, מה יעשה לפני מה, ואחר כך לתת תאריכים לביצוע. That is your time schedule. What are all the things you need to do to the last detail, עד הפרט האחרון, and then the order you want to do it in. So the first thing you're going to need, these are the things that you should have already done by now. These should be part of your plan. So the next thing you need to do, the first thing you need to do is arrange meetings and interview with your stakeholders and to disseminate your surveys throughout the affected populations. And this should, of course, you do your surveys after you finish all your interviews. The information collected should include information regarding positions, interests, which are needs, wants, and resources in conflict, perception of the other side's interest, and positions and solutions that they see as possible to the conflict, whether they think the other side will do it or not. Like I said, sometimes some people say, I don't want to even suggest it because the other side will not agree to it. And then we find out, lo and behold, the other side agrees to it or even will agree to part of it. And that is progress in itself. 3, next you will need to analyze your information. You need to identify the trends that you came across in the interviews and the surveys. You may find out that we have common ground. You'll find this group population thinks like this, and this population thinks like this, and we have a common ground in the middle. And when you start your negotiation side, you will always start with the common ground. What can we agree on, not what we can disagree on. If you start with what we disagree on, it puts up a barrier of mistrust. You always start where the people can come together. Okay? Where do the stakeholders on both sides of the issue agree with each other, and where do they disagree with each other? Okay? You need to look at both the positions and the interest. Why, what they want, and what needs, wants, and resources are in conflict with each other. You also want to see what needs, wants, and resources are in common with each other. Beware, while some positions may be the same, the interests may be different, and this can have a profound impact on the possible solutions, which means they may have the same position, but how it is going to be done, the how might actually be an interest here. You have to be careful that we don't suggest a way of doing something which stands in the way of the interest, even though it is within the position. 4, next you will present your information in written form. So how are you going to do this? An introductory paragraph regarding what actions you took in the active exploration stage. Say what you did in this stage. Okay? Now, after you've said what you've done in short, what you're going to do is present your findings. You're going to present your findings, one side of the conflict, and then the other side of the conflict. Written summaries of the stakeholders' interviews on the first side of the conflict. This needs to include their positions and interests in addition to their position, their perception, what they think of the same regarding the people on the opposite side of the conflict. So, what are their positions? What are their interests? And what they believe to be the interests and positions of the people on the other side of the conflict. Finally, summarize the possible solutions the stakeholders on the first side of the conflict have suggested. After you have written the positions, the interests, and the perception of the other side for one side of the conflict, you're going to do the exact same thing for the second side of the conflict. It means we first did for public transportation on Shabbat, what their position, what their interests are, what their perception of the other side is, and the possible solutions they believe in. I will then write about people who oppose public transportation on Shabbat doing the exact same thing. So now we skip down to here. Summarize the data in writing and graph form from the survey that was presented to the various populations. Basically, you are going to need to analyze your surveys. Okay, what did you find out from the surveys about the populations that are impacted? Not the stakeholders, but the people who actually are at the bottom of the rung, the people at the bottom, the average citizen who is religious, not religious, national Zionistic, male, female, divided up. Where do you see trends? איפה אתם רואים מגמות? ואתם צריכים לעשות את זה גם בכתב וגם בצורה של גרף. כל המידע שיש לכם מהסקר שלכם, אתם תורידו את זה בתור אקסל, ומהאקסל עצמו תוכלו להכין גרפים. A conclusion, then you write a conclusion of the trends you've discovered on both sides of the conflict and how you believe this will influence possible solutions. In other words, what do you think will work and what do you think will not work in terms of a solution? Remember, this is very important because your next section, okay, isn't going to be a paragraph about solutions. It is an analysis of all possible viable solutions, what you think will work and what you think will not work. Here it's just kind of a summary based on your survey and based on your interviews. You're going to go into it in much more detail in the next part of your project. So this part of your project is worth 20 points. So the first thing is the creation of a plan, which you've already done. This is 4 points. The execution of the interviews of stakeholders and the presentation of the results, the interviews and the results, 6 points. The execution of the survey and the results, 6 points. And a summary of the data collection stage as per the trends, HaMegamot, and the implications of the trends on possible solutions. This is the last part of your active exploration. Okay? I want to make one last emphasis. שזה מאוד מאוד שונה מה-literary review. ה-literary review מבוסס על כתבות ועל ספרות. כל מה שאתה כותב כאן יכול להיות שהוא מגביל למה שיש לכם ב-literary review, אבל זה מה אתה מצאת בשטח. אוקיי? אחר כך בסיכום של הפרויקט תכתבו את ה-compare ו-contrast בין ה-literary review וה-active exploration, אבל על זה נדבר בהמשך. Okay? So, I am going to stop the sharing here. If you have any questions about this, you can get a hold of me. I'm going to send this to you through your, it's already in, you'll have it by tomorrow, which in your in your Google Classroom, and I will also be sending it to you in WhatsApp. So you have a good day. If you have any questions, contact me. I'm always here to help you.